This is Eyewitness News with live breaking news.
The right to protest is one way Americans can bring about change in our country.
And faith leaders have often been at the front of these marches. And joining us live via Skype is Pastor Eddie Johnson of McCarty Memorial Christian Church in the West Adams District. And Pastor Johnson, thank you so much for joining us today. You were one of the leaders of Saturday's protest in the Fairfax District, which I do believe was probably one of the biggest protests that we have seen so far. It was very well attended. You've had a couple of days to think about it. What's your take on that protest?
Thank you, Dave and Ella, for having me. I'm Pastor Eddie Anderson at McCarty Memorial Christian Church. I'm sad because our protest was beautiful. It was over 5,000 people in the streets declaring Black Lives Matter, to prosecute killer cops, to defund the police state. And then when we turned around, we saw the LAPD coming down with riot gear and creating a standoff. And I'm sad because they're talking about looting and not about the cops who have killed George Floyd and across this nation, and how we're not prosecuting those cops. We're not talking about the budgets that are bloated right now that we see across the country, that activists are saying we need to right size and make sure that we're defunding the police so that we can have care during the global pandemic. And right now, what's dominating the news is looting. That's so sad. That's not what we were out there in the streets for. That's not what Black people were joining forces for. We weren't in the streets using our pain, our grief, our anger, our love for ourselves and our future. For us, we talk about looting right now.
And that is what's so frustrating. It does take away from the message. How do you see the police behavior changing in the energy of a demonstration?
Well, I can say for on Saturday, the energy, they shifted the energy, right? The protest was peaceful. It was powerful. I even had a young Latino man come up to me and say, "Pastor, this is what unity looks like. We can make a change, make a difference." But then you have to turn around and see all these cops with riot gear and rubber bullets, and that's bad. So I hope that the police realize that they can invest their resources in the community, shift their budgets to make sure people are there and show what the economy of care looks like for all Angelinos.
This is a tough question for you, but you mentioned looting, and looting does, as Ellen said, it does take away from the message, as you said that as well. What would you say to folks? I know you have a very specific message to get out there, a very important message to get out there. What would you say to people out there who are doing the looting, as well as others who are delivering the message about the looting? How do we better get your message out?
Yeah, I think we can't control how people protest, and rage is appropriate at this time. Enough is enough. We're tired of dying. But I would actually just don't exploit Black pain. Don't exploit Black grief. I saw people who were not a part of the protest tagging BLM to further demonize the movement for Black lives, to further demonize and dehumanize Black life. And so just really take a look at what is the message. We are here because cops are not being prosecuted. We are here because budgets are overspent and we're living in a militarized police state. And that's time is out for that. So how are you helping the message? The question, are you listening to the people on the streets?
And how do you keep protests from devolving into civil unrest?
I think civil unrest is quite frankly needed, right? When people have been oppressed for over 400 years, right? Martin Luther King said that he feared that he had integrated his people into a burning house, and the house has been on fire since the 1960s, the 20s, the 40s. It's time and time again. But how do we express our civil unrest? How do we show our Black rage? How do we show our power together in the streets? I think that's what we are doing at this time, where you're seeing across this country that people are sick and tired and they've had enough. And I think everyone who comes out to a protest, everyone who comes out to a march should come out with that same type of understanding. Dr. King practiced civil unrest as well. You have to make people uncomfortable, but you also have to make sure the message is clear. And right now, the message is kind of getting lost.
Absolutely. It's gone on way too long. Pastor Eddie Anderson with McCarty Memorial Christian Church, we thank you so much for your input today. It's great hearing from you.
Thank you.
Stay safe.